Morning, Puti. Siviwe?
Zawugqiba ngoku.
Siviwe,
Alright. Yebo, can you
right,
hear me?
Sujani?
Right.
Do you mind to switch off your camera and your video?
Yeah, I was just testing.
Okay, Kamdas.
Yeah, so I'm gqibile. Sharp.
No problem, Kamdas. Okay, sure.
So, testing.
Testa eyam ngoku the problem.
Hey, usengxakini. Sibona kakhulu the picture esemveni kwakho. Much better, but still lento yakho ukhathile kancinci. Ngawunyuke kawube ngathi uyanyuka kancinci. Asisiboni isibunzi sakho, for instance. Nyuka kwafuneka adjust kwabona, adjust i-screen sakho. Bring it down a little bit. And then kukho i-yellow, this yellow light unayo there, iya-reflect. Yicime. Okay. Still, ngawube ngathi move it to the center. Yeah. But then go up. No, you are right. Go back again. That's it. Much better. But But photo zakho zilapho emva, photo zakho zilapho, le photo yakho ilapho emva ingathi izawuba yingxaki. Because manje sibona your daughter there. But at least okay ayibonakali. Hayi ayibonakali. Zi-unmute, andikuva nokuva. But
Unmute.
awuvakali.
Lindy. Unmute.
Hayi ke unmute ngokwami because
Sorry.
Yeah.
Iyabonakala le photo abantwana.
Okay, ngoku ayisabonakali.
Okay.
But move nje kancinci to the other side. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you should be fine.
Yeah.
You should be fine. Stick there ke. Uyibambe up.
Andizomove
Light yakho iyelo.
Okay.
Ucime. Sharp. There's mute again like on my side.
Okay, Nkosi Puti.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, Honorable Minister. I see you are with us this morning. Good morning to all DG of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development and the leaders in the senior leaders in the department. And also I see that our petitioner, Mr. Isaacs, is already among us. Good morning, sir. And good to the team. Thank you so much, those that have come and attended this meeting this morning. I wish to also acknowledge that the minister who, after by the Parliamentary Legal Advisor, so I hope that the Honourable Minister will stay the course with us until the time, it being Wednesday. So I would like for us to please just meditation. Thank you. Give you glory, we give you majesty, we give you power. Be magnified, power of God. Be exalted. Take full control, Lord Jesus. In Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much. At this stage, I would like to hand over to the agenda, please, and all other formalities. Thank you, Lindy.
Thank you very much, Chair. Today is the 7th of May, 2025. I wish to greet you, the Minister, the members of the Portfolio Committee, and also the departmental officials, and a special welcome to Mr. Isaac, our petitioner today, and any other stakeholders in our attendance, Chair. You have already welcomed us, Chair. The next process is to also make a roll call of members who are in attendance. Thus far, Chair, I have Member Masango, Member Abrahams, Member Mchweni, and Member Maramahila. I think the other members will still join while in the process. And then we'll also give the legal advisor to quickly, for 10 minutes, brief us on the additional amendments by the NCOP for the consideration by this committee. We'll have a short deliberations, maybe if there are many, there are issues of clarity for members to raise. And then we'll give the minister a 10 to 10 to provide an overview. And then thereafter, Chair will give Mr. Isaacs to present his petition to the committee. Sorry, Chair. And then there will be a response from DSD and SASSA on the petition of Mr. Isaacs on the request for an urgent call to increase the social grant. And then the committee from 11 to 20 past 11 to 20 past 12 will have the deliberation, Chair. So, and then after that, at 20 past 12 to 12, you will have your closing remarks and the meeting will adjourn. Chair, I don't recall receiving any apologies, Chair. Thus far, I don't know whether is there anyone who submitted. I didn't recognize. That's the agenda before the committee, Chair, for the consideration and adoption. Thank you very much.
Sincere apologies. I thought it was Lindiwe that was cutting, but it looked like it was my side because I was suddenly cut off the platform. Sorry about that, Lindiwe. Please go ahead.
I'm done presenting the agenda for the consideration adoption of the committee, Chair. And I've also noted that we are not a quorum as yet, but in terms of commencement of a meeting, there are 4 members in the platform. The committee can start officially in compliance with the National Assembly rules. So there are no apologies. Thank you very much.
Okay. No, thank you so much for that. And again, apologies for me just leaving you for a couple of seconds or minutes there. I just would like to now hand over to our legal representatives for the legal advisor, rather, on the referral of the older persons bill for concurrence. Please take over.
Sorry, Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Makgato.
Yes, I'm available. I'm one of the members who are present. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Makgato. Thank you for that.
Sorry, Chair, once again, our member Song is here as well, Chair. Just joined the platform. Thanks.
Okay.
We're a quorum now.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I'm more relieved now than before, although you did say that we can continue. But thank you, members. You are welcome to the meeting. And you've actually just given us a quorum for this meeting to continue within the rules of Parliament. Thank you so much. So we will now hand over to the legal advisor on the older person's referral for concurrence. Please take over. I do not know who it is, so this is why I have not mentioned your name. So you can introduce yourself. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Sue Ann Isaac from Parliament's Legal Services. If Lindiwe could please give me sharing rights so I can share my screen and take the committee through the bill or as amended by the NCOP.
For you, Chair, I've given you the rights.
Okay.
I want to share the correct screen. Chairperson, can you see the presentation with older persons? Yes, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Just to start off, I am going to take the committee through a brief overview of where we are in the process so the members can all be on the same page. The committee
sorry for this. Would you make it to be on presentation mode, please?
I am trying to do that. I don't know why it's not doing that. Sure, there we go. Thank you, Chairperson. So I'm going to briefly just give us an overview before I go to the actual bill itself, so all members are on the same page as to where we are in the process. So we are dealing with the Older Persons Amendment Bill, and this bill was seeks to amend the Older Persons Act of 2006. The bill seeks to insert new definitions, to insert new provisions relating to the monitoring and evaluation of all services to older persons, and for the removal of older persons to temporary safe care without a court order, to tighten up the existing implementation and compliance measures, and to effect some textual amendments for greater clarity, and to provide matters connected therewith. This was the bill as introduced. It was titled the Older Persons Amendment Bill, B11 of 2022. The bill was classified as a Section 76 bill by the joint tagging mechanism. The bill was introduced in the National Assembly on 3rd May 2022. The bill was passed by the National Assembly on 9th May 2024 and transmitted to the National Council of Provinces for concurrence. The bill lapsed at the end of the 6th Parliament and was revived by the 7th Parliament. It was revived by the NCOP because it was already at the stage of the NCOP. The bill was passed by the NCOP on 10 December and was now referred back to the National Assembly for concurrence. As the bill is a 76 bill, the process set out in Section 76(1) of the Constitution must be followed. The NCOP made amendments to the bill passed by the National Assembly and passed the amended bill. The bill that is now before the committee is called B11D of 2022. The bill is now before the committee for a report to the National Assembly on its recommendations. Now, what happens next? The NA may pass the amended bill. The bill will then be submitted to the President for assent, and that is in terms of Section 76(1)(c) of the Constitution. However, if the National Assembly refuses to pass the amended bill, the amended bill must be referred to the Mediation Committee in terms of Section 76(1)(d) of the Constitution. And in terms of the process that will continue after that, in terms of Section 76(1)(d), the Mediation Committee may agree on the bill passed by the National Assembly or the amended bill as passed by the NCOP or another version of the bill. And then whatever the Mediation Committee decides there, the process will go forward according to the Constitution. I don't want to go into that because it becomes a bit more complicated, but it all depends as to whether the National Assembly decides to accept the amendments by the NCOP. If it does, then that bill is passed and goes to the President. If not, there's another step in the process. If the NA does not pass the amendments, there's a further step, and then the process goes to mediation, and we'll have to deal with that if that is what this committee recommends to the National Assembly, and the National Assembly agrees to that. So just where we are, just to recap, we are now considering the bill as amended by the National Council of Provinces, B11D. So I'm gonna share the screen with the actual bill and take members through the amendments that were agreed to by the NCOP. Chairperson, do you see the bill, just to confirm?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Yes.
sure. So this is the bill as agreed to by the NCOP, and then we have B11D. So there were various amendments, and those amendments are contained in what we call the C list, or it's also reflected in the report of the committee as ATC'd. So to make it easy for members, I've highlighted the changes in the D bill. If members want to double check, they can look at the committee report from the NCOP, or they can request a copy of the C list, which lists all the amendments specifically. But just for ease of this process, I have highlighted it. So the amendments that were made by the committee the NCOP rather was to the definitions clause. And the first amendment here is to the definition of caregiver. So in terms of the definition of caregiver, initially the definition of caregiver tried to limit this to a person who has a qualification that is accredited. So the original definition in the introduced bill only related to B, which says that a person must possess a qualification accredited by the National Qualifications Framework. But due to public submissions, it became apparent that some family members also provide care, this sort of care, are classified as caregivers. Further on in the NCOP process, what became clear from the public submissions that a family member who is a person who may not be a family member through blood may also provide caregiving services to an older person, someone who in the community or someone who's a neighbor who may also do this. So the definition of caregiver was extended. So a caregiver now means a family member or any other person who provides family care. So that is to cater for the others, any other person who's not biologically related but does provide family care. And family care is defined in the bill to mean the provision of support and assistance by family members or any other person to an older person, including one who is frail or living with disabilities. So it is clear that there are people who are not related but do provide this sort of support and care to older persons, and we don't want to exclude them from the definition of caregiver. So the NCOP agreed to insert this word that's highlighted, or any other person. So that is the first amendment that was agreed to by in the D bill. The next amendment is to the definition of Director General. This is more of a technical amendment. So initially, the definition said the Director General means the Director General of the Department of Social Development. But however, as we know, departments often change the name when there's a new government and there's a new restructure of the departments. There may be a different designation for the department. So to avoid us having to amend this section again, the drafting convention is to now make it more general. So instead of saying of the department, we say means the Director General of the department responsible for social development. So that will cover even a name change, because social development will fall into a particular department, and even if the name is different, we know who we're speaking about. It is that Director General who is responsible for social development. The next amendment is also to the definition of interdepartmental structure. Again, the first part of this amendment is technical. So here again, we had, it means interdepartmental structure means the departments, and we listed the departments originally. But in the NCOP process and with some of the comments that we received, it was decided that it would be better to change this to make it more broad. And for the same reasons I've explained, that if the names of these departments change, then we will be able to now still cover them without having to amend. We'll be still able to include them in this definition without having to amend this definition. So the wording now reads, interdepartmental structure means a structure consisting of the departments responsible for social development, and then the list goes on. And again, during the process, it was suggested that the department responsible for agriculture, defense and military veterans, land reform and rural development, and public works also be included in this interdepartmental structure. It was felt that these are also important portfolios that impact on older persons, and the NCOP agreed to those amendments, and that is what's now reflected. So the interdepartmental structure includes all those departments listed, plus the National Prosecuting Authority, the South African Police Services, and any provincial and local government department, and and may include any other organ of state. So it's quite a broad definition. The structure will include quite a few departments and entities, but it is to ensure that this will be able to cater for anyone who caters to older persons will be included in the structure. So Chairperson, those were the amendments, the 3 amendments made by the NCOP to the definitions. That's clause 1. I'll move on to the next amendment. The next amendment is to clause 2 of the Act of the Older Persons Act, and clause 2 of the Older Persons Act seeks to amend the objects of the Act. So the first line in section 2 of the Act says the objects of the Act are, and you would see that the bill had previously made, or the bill has made some amendments to the object. So you see in B, it now makes some amendments, and then also in E, for instance, prevent and combat abuse of older persons. But during the NCOP process, they also inserted F. So F, the Act will now read, if it is passed, the objects of the Act are 2 and F, prevent and combat ageism against older persons. So F is the new amendment. B and E were what was already agreed to by the National Assembly. So that was accepted, but F is the highlighted one, which is now the new insertion. The next amendment is to clause 15. So clause 15 seeks to insert a new section in the Older Persons Act. And this will be a new section 25A, which deals with the removal of older persons to temporary care. So this sets out the process when a person is, an older person is removed, and it deals with the process with a social worker, healthcare provider, or police official. And for instance, when a social worker or healthcare provider, in subsection 2, if a social worker or healthcare provider has removed an older person and placed the older person in temporary care as contemplated in subsection 1, the social worker or healthcare provider must, in writing, report the matter to the relevant provincial department of social development, and must, without delay, within 24 hours, inform the family member of the older person of such removal and the place where the older person has been removed. 2, and B, without delay, obtain a court order within 48 hours for the placement of the older person in temporary safe care. So during the NTOP process, it was pointed out that while we have the subsection 2B in relation to social workers and healthcare providers, in terms of subsection 3, when a police officer also follows the same process as above, there is no provision for the police officer to now go to court and obtain a court order for the older person to be placed in temporary safe care. So the NCOP was of the view that this is an important amendment to include because this is a missing step in the process. So now subsection 3 aligns with subsection 2. So now when a police officer removes an older person from and place the older person in temporary safe care as contemplated in subsection 1, the police officer must follow the same process outlined above and must also, without delay in C, obtain a court order within 48 hours for the placement of the older person in temporary safe care. So that was something that was missing in the bill, and it is now agreed to by the NCOP for this committee's consideration. The next amendment is to clause 19. Clause 19 seeks to amend Section 31 of the Principal Act. And Section 31 of the Act deals with the keeping of a register of abuse for older persons. So in terms of the section, the Act requires the minister to keep a register of persons convicted of abuse of an older person for any crime or offense contemplated in Section 34 of the Act. A person whose name appears in the register may not operate or be employed at any residential facility or provide community-based care and support to an older person. So in terms of that register, these people are excluded from providing these services to older persons. However, the new insertion in the bill was to say that an application to the minister for removal of the name from the register may be brought by any person who, in terms of the any person after the criminal record of the offender whose name appears in the register has been expunged in terms of section 271A, capital A, 271 capital B, 271 capital C, or 271 capital D of the Criminal Procedure Act 1977, Act number 51 of 1977. So basically that relates to the process in the Criminal Procedure Act where a person record is either expunged by operation of law or they write to the minister asking that the record be expunged. And that was the amendment as agreed to previously by the National Assembly. The NCOP did not change that, but due to receiving comments on this process, they've now inserted a subsection 4 which says a person referred to in subsection 3 who wants to operate or be employed at a residential care facility or who wants to provide any community-based care and support services to an older person must provide proof that he or she has been rehabilitated as prescribed. So this is an added protection. So even if the person's criminal record is expunged, before they provide these services to older persons, they must provide proof that they have been rehabilitated, and the kind of proof that will be required will be prescribed by the minister in regulations. But this is just to ensure that older persons have some extra protection from a person who has previously been convicted. So, Chairperson, those were the amendments that were made to the bill by the NCOP. It's a few amendments, but as discussed, the committee can now consider whether it agrees to those amendments or and take the process forward. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm not sure through you whether the State Law Advisor or the department wants to add anything to what I've said. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Isaacs, for both the background and the context, and then taking us through, or taking the honourable members through the actual amendments that you were referring to. Just before we do that, after the Lindy took us through the agenda and everything, because I was cut off the platform, I completely, omitted to actually ask the members to adopt the agenda. I just would like to interrupt the process by going to that very small but very important aspect of our meeting. Honourable members, the agenda was presented to you. I just would like to ask for the adoption of the agenda, please, by a show of hands.
Chairperson, Mama Kato.
Yes.
Yes, I adopt the agenda.
Thank you so much, Honourable Makato. Is any member agreeing with Honourable Makato by seconding that adoption?
Ramaila is seconding, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Ramaila. So our agenda retrospectively has now been adopted. Thank you so much, honourable members. And I was thanking the Ms. Isaacs for the presentation, and I wonder, and this is only if there is a need or you feel the need through you, DG, I wonder if we need to get some comments from the Advocate Mchochisa on this presentation before I hand over to the honourable members to ask questions and deliberate on the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, and Honorable members. I think the Muchachisa is online, and I think is aware of those two. There's few amendments that were added into the bill, but I think we are fine, Honorable Member.
Okay. Awesome. So that then leads this for us to go through straight to the honorable members and ask for their comments. I see Honorable Abrams. Any other comment or question? Did I see Honorable Khato? Yes. Any other hand from the members? It doesn't seem like there is. Honorable Thong has just also raised her hand, and the Honorable Reverend Kwabaza. Any other member? That seems like it is all. Honorable Abrams, I hand over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentations. Chairperson, well, I support the changes made by the NCOP. I just have one question on the definition of the interdepartmental structures. If I heard Ms. Isaacs correctly, there was a concern that by not having, if departments' names changes, that we didn't have to go then back to the bill to rechange departments' names in the bill. So now by listing all those departments, is that also not running the risk that, when departments in future should split or merge, as we've seen with agriculture and rural land development, like that portfolio, which is now split, do we not then also run the risk of having to come back at a later stage to amend definitions if we are going to be listing, all the departments by name like that? So that's just my concern, because I thought the presenter indicated that that's what we didn't want to do, having to come back and forth to change names of departments. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Abrams, for that question, for clarity. Honorable Makhato, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation. I think it's loud clear. When I checked the legislative processes, I think the bill is passed by the AN. The amendment bills also is passed by the NACOP. So now I just want to agree with the presentation. All they tried to mention the attachments and everything. So I agree with the presentation, Chairperson, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Khato, for that. Now I'll ask the Honorable Tong to take over. Honorable Tong. Am I the only one that can't hear Honorable Tong?
No, I can't hear as well from my side.
Okay. Honorable Tong, can we come back to you once you have sorted out your volume while we go to the Reverend Kwabaza? Honorable Kwabaza, over to you. You are muted, Honorable Kwabaza. Yes, you can go ahead. Honorable Gqobaza, we cannot hear you. You are not muted, but we can't hear you. I can't hear you. Put it that way. Lindiwe, can you hear Honorable Gqobaza?
No, Chair, I can't hear him as well. Let me phone them in the meantime, Chair. There's also Member Mare who just joined in the line of questioning. Maybe you can listen to her while I'm trying to find out from them.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for that. Thank you for coming, Honorable Mare, and you are welcome. And I see that your hand is already up. While we're sorting the situation with Honorable Tong and Rev, please can you come through, Honorable Mare?
Good morning, Chairperson and the members, and thank you for the presentation. Chairperson, I just wanted to apologize. I logged in at 10 past because I had a problem, also the same thing that is happening to them, that was kicked in and out. But I just wanted to find out, Chairperson, is that I need to understand, we have passed that bill. We have discussed the thing of the caregivers. And they have specified, that time they have specified for us what is the meaning of a caregiver. The bill went to the NCOP. It was passed through the NA and it went to the NCOP. Why is the bill coming back to us? Is there some clause that has changed? Because I couldn't hear some of the things that was said there. Just to clear my mind, was there any additional clause added? Because I went through the bill and I couldn't find anything. Maybe my concept of the bill is not right, because the things that we have discussed before was in that bill. So I just wanted to know what is the reason for bringing it back, just to get clarity for myself, Chairperson, because I just need to clear my mind, because I couldn't hear some of the things that were said, and when I heard, I couldn't understand properly what was said. But about the caregivers, yes, that one I did hear, but the others I couldn't hear what was happening. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mare. I don't know if this question can be answered even by myself by saying that the Ms. Isaacs, the legal advisor, actually took us step by step on the processing, the fact that it had to be brought back to life after the 6th Parliament, and that's when the NCOP, but the NCOP had already, had some, which is why now it is coming from them to us. But I think that the presentation as done by Ms. Isaacs, the one where she was giving the context and the background of why we are here today discussing this amendment bill, would go a long way to give you that context and background. But when you answer questions, Ms. Isaacs, please just give a very quick overview for the Honorable Mare, because she does say that there are things that she couldn't hear properly. But I just want you to know, Honorable Member, that exactly what you're asking was given to us by Ms. Isaacs. Honorable Gqobaza, you seem to be able to speak to us now. Thank you.
Chair, thank you so much, Chair. I think you've answered me a bit, because even myself, I had trouble of hearing Ms. Isaac while she was presenting. But I think you have covered me a bit in that. What was troubling me is that as the process of this bill has lapsed on the NCOP and then come back, and the NCOP rises again, and then now it's here with us. What is the expectation here on us, and where is it going after us? Is our inputs are they going to Are they going to change anything? What is going to happen as it is here in the NA or in the committee here? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Reverend Kabaza. I again think that you will be fully covered when Ms. Isaacs comes back to respond to the comments and questions that have been made. But exactly what you are saying, she went why it happened, even giving us the sections of the Constitution that take care of that. I don't see any other hand. Honorable Tlong, are you still with us and would still like to try again for us to hear you before I hand over to Ms. Isaacs? I don't even see Honorable Tlong anymore now. With that, if Honorable Tlong still wants to make a comment or ask a question, we will accommodate that as soon as we have a sighting of her in the platform, or if she it raises her hand again. But at this stage, I would like to hand over to Ms. Isaacs. Ms. Isaacs, please take over and respond to the honorable members' questions and comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Regarding the first question by Honorable Abrams, yes, her point is noted. The issue of how do we define departments which may in the future change, and it is a problem as to how we make it wide enough to ensure that any future changes are catered for. So originally the bill said the Department of, for instance, Department of Social Development, the Department of Agriculture, Department of Justice. And we've tried to make it broader to now say the structure consists of departments responsible for. So those responsibilities may be given to a particular department with a name, but as long as that department deals with that responsibility, then it is catered for. So we're trying to widen the definition to take it away from the Department of to now say the department responsible for that particular portfolio. So drafting can't cater for every possibility that may happen in the future, but this is as the convention that we now use to try to cater for any possible changes to the names of the department by not naming the department, but speaking about the responsibilities. With regard to the next question by Honorable Marais, and I think also Reverend Gabasha asked about what is the process and why is this bill back with the National Assembly and this committee. So firstly, this is a Section 76 bill. So the process is a bit more involved because the NCOP can also make changes to the bill, make amendments to the bill, and then the NA must decide whether it agrees to those changes and pass the amendments or refer it to a mediation committee. So that's why the bill is back. The NCOP has exercised its power in terms of the Constitution to effect amendments to this bill, and it comes back to the NA to either agree to these changes or to go to the next process. So if the NA agrees to it, this committee will agree to the changes. If it does, it reports to the National Assembly, and if the National Assembly accepts the report and the bill is passed, then it goes to the President to be signed. If this committee or does not recommend that these changes be adopted, it will go to the National Assembly. They accept the report, then it goes to the mediation committee, which is a separate process where there is kind of decisions as to which version of the bill that will be accepted. So the process is back here because that's how a 76 process is dealt with in terms of the Constitution. And regarding whether there were changes, Honorable Marais asked, yes, there were changes that were highlighted, made by the NCOP. So basically, once this committee decides on whether to accept those changes, they will write the report to the National Assembly recommending that or not. Thank you, Chairperson. I think I've answered the questions that were asked.
Thanks, Ms. Isaacs. I didn't hear whether you addressed the question by the Honorable Reverend Kabaza, where he says, will any comment that, or any, I don't know whether by comments he means any further amendments or something like that, because this is obviously a brand new portfolio committee. Will they have any material value to the, or will be even accepted before the bill is tabled at the National Assembly? Did you take care of that, or would you like to say a few words on that, please, Ms. Isaacs? Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Chair. In terms of the process, if this committee feels that there needs to be further amendments to this bill, then it will report that this committee to the National Assembly, because it means it is not accepting the bill as it is passed by the NCOP. It feels that further amendments must be made. And then the bill will be referred to the Mediation Committee. Now, the Mediation Committee will consist of members from the NCOP and the NA, and then they will have to now agree as to whether they accept new amendments and adopt and recommend a further version of the bill, which must go back to both houses to be adopted. So yes, further amendments still can be made, but it has to go through the mediation process. This committee can make those recommendations, and then it will go to the next step of the process, where that will be deliberated on again by the mediation committee and then go back to both houses.
Thank you so much for that. Honorable members, I hope that has taken care of your comments and your queries that you had on this presentation. And then, other than that, I just want to mention this, and I would like also the legal advisor to assist me with the correct wording, but I believe that clause 15 encroaches on the mandate of SAPS, and so we, the content advisor and then the committee secretary considered this, and we have then asked to meet with SAPS on this issue. And since they were not able to attend today because they are also having their portfolio committee meeting today, they have agreed to meet with us on Friday. I hope that I am putting this in the right way for it to make sense to the honorable members and also to the legal advisor. Are you able to comment on that before we release you after such a helpful presentation, Ms. Isaacs?
Thank you, Chairperson. The committee is within its rights to call SAPS and get clarity on the process. It will be very helpful to understand how, their views on and how they will implement this. It's very important for the committee to engage with departments and stakeholders who are going to be affected by the amendments. So I think that's a very good step by the committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Sorry?
You were muted, Chair. We didn't hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was saying that thank you to Ms. Isaacs for clarifying, making that clarity for us to go ahead with our scheduled meeting with the SAPS. And so that is what the process will be from going on from here onwards on this particular item of our agenda. Now that we...
Chair,
yes.
Can I just make one comment, Chair?
Sure.
On the matter before the committee. Chair, the meeting with SAPS is going to be next week on the 14th, on the 16th of May, because on the 14th, their initial invitation, they were not available due to prior commitments. So they will only be available on the 16th, Chair, to present before the committee their readiness to implement the proposed amendments by the NCOP chair. Just to outline the process, after we have met with SAPS, the committee will just deliberate, and then they would need to draft a report, a committee report, if they concur with the amendments from the NCOP, and that report will be debated in the House. So that will be the process after we have met with SASSA. This committee must draft a report to state whether they concur with those amendments. If we all concur with amendments, it will go to the House for debate and then signed by the President, and it becomes an act of Parliament. Thank you very much.
I think you meant SAPS, not SASSA. Just for the record, for those who are making notes of this meeting. Thank you so much. To the end of this part of our meeting, and thank you again, Ms. Isaacs, for your presentation and for the clarity you have brought to the Portfolio Committee on this matter. And we will proceed as Lindiwe has outlined just now. So with that having been done, I would like to welcome the Honourable Minister again, and thank you, Honourable Minister, for being with us this morning. And before we go to the next part of our meeting, which is the briefing by Mr. Isaac, not Mr. Isaacs. We've just heard the Ms. Isaacs. I would like to hand over and welcome the Honourable Minister to ask her to please give us the ministerial of
Honourable Chairperson, honourable members of the Portfolio Committee, the Director General of Department of Social Development, the Acting CEO of SASSA, senior officials of our department, as well as SASSA ESCO members, Mr. Riyad, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Honourable Chair and honourable members, it really humbles and excites us to be presented with this opportunity to come and engage on this sensitive and important matter of the old age grant. Honourable Chair, I must say, we understand where Mr. Isaac comes from. We are part of this country, wherein, directly or indirectly, our elder persons have been made to be breadwinners in their respective homes. This is informed by the economy that is not doing well in our country, and therefore presents scarcities of jobs, and people who are capable to work are unable to work, and as such, families mostly rely onto this very important grant that is being distributed by our government. We must say, Chair, this has created a little bit of a tension between families because it is not supposed to be the case, but it is the case. But also, it has made elder people to be the most vulnerable because of crime that is taking place around our areas. They are being targeted because of the little money that they are receiving from their government. This has exposed them into a number of awkward situations where sometimes they are being abused by their loved ones. Sometimes they are being targeted by those criminals that sees them to be victims. We must congratulate and really thank Mr. Riyad for his patriotism that he has displayed to make sure that he raised his hand to ask the question for those who are made to be responsible to distribute the grant and make them to account, having observed these bad tendencies that I've just articulated. We thank him because, Chair, we must indicate to you, we are all overwhelmed by members of society who are asking this pertinent question to all of us because of the situation that I've just alluded to. We really don't take it lightly that he has been patriotic and very brave to really come up to ask the question, so that for once we're able to articulate the reasons why we are where we are, where we are coming from, where we would want to go, so that we can put this matter before our nation and everybody understands where we are. Chair, we know and accept the fact that elder people are not only the integral part of our society, but they are the roots of this society. There will be no nation without elder people. And as South Africans, we know for a fact that those who are 60 years and above are the ones that brought us what we have. The democracy that we celebrate today was fought by those who are now 60 years. This means that they carried this nation under very difficult circumstances and they brought us where we are today. It is then very, very bad, and it is not really something that we can be proud of when we can all agree to say they are not necessarily getting what they deserve. Yes, according to the Constitution of the Republic, but by the virtue of the fact that this nation is a nation that understood why the elder people must be assisted. Chair, as I have alluded to the fact that all that they're supposed to receive is enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic, and therefore it's not something that is negotiable. We know for a fact that, Chair, where we're coming from as a country, during apartheid system, this grant was distributed according to racial lines, and even that resource was quite limited. We are proud today to report, and it's known by everyone else, that that is no more the case. Everybody who becomes 60 and above is entitled of this grant, regardless of his or her color. Chair, today we are here to come and articulate the fact that that apartheid regime made it impossible for our people to be able to be this time receiving the grant as sometimes former workers, because at the time, the levels of education that was attained by persons at the time was limiting them to be able to translate into an improved standard of living. Chair, we know and accept that South Africa is now one of the most developed social protection framework that addresses the rights of elder persons. Our country recognizes that the past discriminatory practices largely excluded the majority of previously disadvantaged people from old age pension and social security entitlements through the provision of formal employment. Chair, the right to access of social security under Section 27 of the Constitution of the Republic, recognizing social security as a basic right. We all know that elder person and, among others, persons with disability are vulnerable and bear the brunt of poverty and inequalities. Social security provides a supplementary benefit when there is insufficient income to achieve a minimum standard of living. Of course, Chair, social grants remain a vital safety net, particularly for the poorest households. We know only 2.5 million people received social grants before 1994, and most of it was based on the race, as I've already indicated. Chair, the first thing the democratic government had to work on was to equalize the social grants across racial lines. The percentage of households and persons who benefited from social grants have increased from 12.8% in 2003 to 30% or 30.9% in 2019. Chair, the introduction of the COVID-19 special COVID-19 social relief of stress grant increased the coverage to 39.4% by 2023. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, the household survey has shown that the social grants are the main income for most households in South Africa at 50.5%. Furthermore, one of the National Development Plan goals is to eradicate poverty and reduce inequalities by ensuring that old age persons related poverty is eliminated by 2030. It also advocates for inclusive health and social protection system that addresses all areas of vulnerability and are responsive to the needs, realities, conditions, and livelihoods of those who are most at risk. As part of this mandate, our government has successfully implemented the social assistance program over the years. The program has been hailed as one of the most effective poverty alleviation intervention, with 19 million beneficiaries of social grants, including 4.1 million of elder persons who are beneficiaries of older persons grant. Honorable Chair, it is also important to highlight that social grants on their own cannot meet all the needs on the elderly. Through you, Honorable Chair, I will then give over to the DG of the DSD to take us through on what else is in the kit and why we are where we are now and where we would like to go. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Minister, for very good opening and introduction of the departmental plan. What I'm going to do now is to request to us to take you through our response in respect to the Mr. Isaac's petition. We will then give you some answers in terms of how we are responding to this matter and allow us to discuss later on. I will ask our resident doctor, Dr. Mkhotsi, to take us through the presentation. Maybe we need Lindy to give us the hosting rights.
Okay. Through you, Chair.
Sorry, Honorable Minister, thank you so much for your overview. I think we need to hear from the petitioner himself, because he is among us on this platform, so that when you respond, you respond to what may have not been in the initial letter, but that he will be giving us during his presentation. As per our program or our agenda, after the minister's overview, we will have to go through to Mr. Isaac, who is the party leader of United South Africa, who will brief us on a petition for an urgent call to increase the social grant for pensioners. I'm very, very sorry that I didn't say this before I handed over to the Honourable Minister, but we need to hear from the petitioner, and then the department and SASSA can respond to us. So if we could please now hand over to Mr. Isaacs. Over to you, sir. And thank you so much for writing to the Honourable Minister, the Minister of Finance, the President of the country, and through the processing of matters as they land in the government's hands, they then have to redirect it to a portfolio committee that is handling or that is exercising oversight on the issue being petitioned. So I'll hand over to you, sir. Thank you so much for coming.
Good morning, honorable members. Okay, if you hear any butterflies in my voice, please forgive me for that one. I'm deeply humbled by the fact that I'm invited to basically come and speak to my presentation. What I originally, how this thing started is when we had some type of march here in the city of Cape Town. That is with regards to the electricity tariffs. When we handed over a memorandum to the mayor, It is at that time that I realized the amount of people that I'm dealing with, especially pensioners, when it comes to the electricity tariffs. In that scenario, I then also realized that so many people, and I'm talking about the
Sorry, Naomi, please, I don't know who Naomi is. Please switch off your mic. Thank you. Apologies, Mr. Isaac. Please go ahead.
No. If there's also anything that I do or say that is out of the ordinary, please, I do seek your forgiveness, as I'm not familiar with your processes. But anyway, coming back to that thing, when we wanted to arrange another meeting, there were so many pensioners that wanted to come out to support us, but the burning question was, do they take money to come out and use that for transport, or do they use that in terms of electricity? And then because of my interaction, I was invited to be part of so many, I'm talking about WhatsApp groups, in terms of civil society. And from that time, I think like when one say you walk around with a plate that is full, I'm walking around with two plates or otherwise sometimes a platter, because my ultimate goal is to assist pensioners. Now, I do understand that pensioners are getting the 2,190, or which is now 2,310, 2,330. My argument that I am really putting forward is the Honorable Minister is correct. It is nowhere near enough for people to survive. And strangely enough, my heart goes out to all those pensioners. If I look at and forget about the racial lines, if you are 60, 65, and you fall within that category, remember you are the backbone of the society. Now, I put forward another argument for people, and I'm not going to even use Parliament. I'm talking about in the government service. The nice thing is when people are basically in the government service or in any other entity or employee, they might have a pension which is lucrative, which equates to about anything from 5 to 10,000 rand, depending on what their income is. However, the majority of people are not that fortunate. Many people are living under the poverty line. Many of them are struggling. Many of them are struggling to make ends meet. I always hear from people crying out for additional help and support. And the question is, who of us are there to lend a helping hand? So if I look at them, I'm asking 2,300 Rand is not near enough, because if I look at the rates that they need to pay, if I look at the rental that they have to pay, many times I also hear that people are reaching out for parcels of food because they don't have. Now my question is, can we as a society, knowing full well that our parents, our forefathers have brought us up in this nation, and this is how we treat them, there is apologies, no way in hell that we can really allow those pensioners to survive on that amount of money. Now, I've also sent through something through to Lindiwe, which she can share with you, and this is the ultimate process that I would like to take forward. Remember, we are looking at the old age pension, and then we are also looking at the child support grant. Now, before I get to the issue of the old age pension, let me just touch on the child support grant. It is, unfortunately, in some instances, when you look at, and this is where I have to draw the distinction if you talk about the racial lines, if I use the colored culture, they would then argue, listen, but now I have a child, and if I'm pregnant, then I can apply for some type of grant, which is a financial assistance from the state. My argument is contrary to that, because it is nice to be lascivious or promiscuous, but obviously, why is it that when people are lascivious or promiscuous, that the state needs to foot the bill? Where is that parents? Where are those parents Where's the mother? Where's the father? Why is it that they do not at least assist in terms of financial constraints, in terms of the baby? Why must that be shifted to the state? And do you really think it is fair upon the state to make that payment? Now, if I look at, and in terms of this Excel spreadsheet that I sent, if you, okay, Lindiwe, can you just scroll slightly to the left? Thank you. Originally, and remember, this is primarily the stats that was provided to me. Now, if I look at the child support grant, let's take the very first one, Eastern Cape, 1929217. Now, all I'm saying is, I'm not saying that we need to take away the child support grant in one go, in one bang. I would like to, in terms of this entire process, over a period of whether it is 3 or whether it is a period of 5 years, but ultimately try and make a way, or make a way, or do without the child support grant. In that money that is there can basically be shifted to the older pensions persons, to that grant. Now, if I look at that first amount of 1,929,217, if you halve that amount just by the first year, obviously you have to put forward certain criteria, but then you are sitting with 964,609. If you take that amount, multiply that by the 530 rand, then obviously that is the figure that you get. Now, what I'm ultimately saying is, if you look at column G, if you take that amount divided by, I'm talking about half, technically speaking, it amounts to about an amount of 804 rand, and so it can be broken up to each and every province. In there you'll see everything is obviously way above 500 rand. So for now, as a first round, what I'm saying is, at least can we at least add on 500 rand towards the pensioners, so that they have something to live by, something, a means where they are no longer going out, reaching out for food parcels and those things, because at the end of the day, I would like them to have a reasonable amount which they are able to pay towards electricity, food, rates, all those things. They need something to live. So in essence, if you look at column I, which I also numbered there as H, technically speaking, they are receiving an amount of 2310. Now, if we are able to at least add on at least the 500 rand, that would take them up to 2810. In essence, we are working towards getting an amount of 5,000 rand. I'm not saying 5,000 rand is supposed to be the alpha and omega. I don't know what is the budgetary constraints of the state, but at the end of the day, we also need them to live in dignity. So that in essence is my argument. I was also asked by some group that has about 53,000 pensioners to at least take forward this fight. And at the end of the day, I am inundated with calls, with messages from pensioners asking me for assistance, also wanting to know what exactly is the state going to be doing in order to assist them in order to survive in this cruel world that we are in. That in a nutshell is my presentation to this portfolio committee for consideration. And the fight doesn't stop there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Isaac, for that presentation and the supporting, information that has been shared. I'm not going to take any time. I will just hand over directly to the department, because they were already, on cue to respond. If we could please go straight to the department, please. I think it was the doctor who was going to present to us. Over to you, doctor.
doctor to do the presentation. And I think some of the issues raised by Mr. Isaac is in the presentation. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Mkhotsi.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, our Minister in the room, the Director General, the Acting CEO of SASSA, and all esteemed senior members of the DSD portfolio. Indeed, we received the call and we responded to the call, and this presentation that I'm going to just do now is basically to answer all of the concerns that have been raised and also some that came through this morning. My presentation will include the purpose, the background of some was touched by our minister in her opening remarks, what government renders in terms of the social wage, the situational analysis of older persons in South Africa.
My sincere apology. If you could please just let us have the presentation in presentation mode, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairperson. I was just going through the outline, the budget allocation, the mandate of social assistance, the amounts and increases over a period of time, as it was indicated that when we took over in 1994, we've been rendering social assistance since and until now. The child support grant and the older persons grant, a comparison between the two, and also in terms of the budget, the older persons grant increases as well, especially for this financial year. The other basic services rendered to the elderly in the country, and we will then give our concluding remarks. The purpose of this presentation, as I indicated, is to provide a response to the Portfolio Committee and Mr. Isaacs on a call to increase the value of the older persons grant. In terms of background, we received this petition, and also it was highlighted by Mr. Isaacs. That was written firstly in August, and another one in March. The department acknowledges receipt of the petition for an urgent call. That's the first thing. And we know the concerns regarding the value of the older persons grant and the plight of older persons in the country. However, we are steadily low economic growth. Government has continued to protect critical services or social protection services that includes our social grants. You will see in the next slide, I indicate that the 2025 budget allocates 61% of resources to the social wage. So the biggest budget of the country goes to the social wage. And in the next slide, I will just give an indication. And this includes the healthcare, education, housing, and social grants. The next slide focuses on this package of services. South Africa as a country, and it was indicated by our minister, is one of the most developed social protection or renders the most developed social protection framework that addresses the rights of vulnerable persons, including the elderly. As we recognize the discriminatory practices of the past, and as a result, it has excluded most disadvantaged persons from receiving government programs. However, government has ensured that protective and preventative measures are put in place. And these measures that includes, if you look at my right hand, the right side of the presentation, we show a number of these protective measures which includes social insurance in the form of UIF, Unemployment Insurance Fund, COIDA, REF, Road Accident Fund, which are there to assist people who find themselves in different contingencies. We also provide housing, basic free services. We also, as a country, provide services in relation to no-fee schools, the NHI, free health, primary health care in terms of offering services to pregnant mothers and elderly, developmental social welfare, and generally other public employment schemes. This we are doing to ensure that these programs act as an economic stabilizer that seeks to help people avoid falling into deeper poverty and further reduce vulnerability to incidences such as natural disasters, illnesses, and so on. We do this also to enhance the quality of life and ensure that no South African citizen lives below a certain standard of living as envisaged by the Constitution. And we will also show in our next slide what the Constitution says. We also do this lastly, to reduce cost of living, particularly for the poor, as well as address issues of inequality and opportunity as well as outcome. Having said that, we just want to highlight the key achievement as done by DPME in 2023, highlighting the successes of government. And we, based on this document, 2.2 million indigent households receive basic services. 1.8 million households receive free basic electricity. 1.5 million households receive subsidized, and these are subsidized free sewerage services, as well as those receiving solid waste services. The report also shows that 81.9%, almost 82% of South African households live in formal dwellings. We are not saying we are already there, but there is a law that as a country we are providing to all citizens, including the elderly. And in terms of basic education, as a country, we have ensured that over 99% of our children attend educational institutions. We have also introduced NSFAS that supports those that are in higher education. And in 2023, we had exceeded the target that was set, which was which shows that we had an increase in terms of those that attended school. No-field schools are contributing more bachelor passes, and we are seeing there that 61% passes from no-fee schools. We also have seen over the years that 847,000 eligible students were funded through NSFAS. And lastly, and not least, the social grants, where we say that about 11 million beneficiaries, 19 million beneficiaries receive social grants, and also an average of 8.5 million receive the COVID SRD per year. So this slide shows that although country has challenges, but we are a country, we are a government that cares for the citizens. We go to the next slide now. We delve into the situational analysis of the elderly. This report comes from the Stats SA on the marginalized report that was released in 2022, and it was launched recently. In this report, it shows that in 2023, persons aged 60 and above were estimated to be at 5.5 million, accounting for 8.9% of the overall population. And 60% were females and 40.2% were males. The Western Cape shows the highest number of the elderly in the country. 3.9 million households were headed by older persons, and in those, 54.3% of households were headed by females. 72 Almost 73% of older persons receive social grants, and 12.6% of elderly persons participated in the labor force. These are people over 60. We know that our country allows us to work until 65, and others have their own businesses, so they're still participating in employment. Approximately 67% headed by older persons indicated that they receive the child support, the social grant as the main source of income. And it's important to understand that in this country, our grants are individual based, because the Constitution says that everyone has a right to access social assistance, depending on whether they are unable to support themselves and their dependents. So a particular household might receive an older person's grant double, meaning the grandmother and the grandfather. You'd find that in extended household, they stay with grandchildren and other members of the family who might also receive the social grant. So it's not only one grant. In most of the families, you'll find that there are additional grants rendered in a particular family. And 69% of older persons had less than matric, and it has been indicated earlier of the legacies of apartheid. And because of ill health, mostly becoming more prominent in elderly population, you'll find that a number of them visit public clinic, and those who can afford visited private institutions. So this is basically gives us the socio-economic status of our elderly in the country. In the next slide, we delve into what is old age poverty. This is not a new phenomenon. This is not the South African phenomenon only, but it is a global phenomenon that South Africa's history, however, South Africa's history exacerbates the impact because of the legacies that I have already highlighted. Old age poverty occurs when elderly people don't have enough money to meet their basic needs. And you'll find that sometimes during their middle years, they've been employed, but they didn't save enough. And when they get into elderly years, their low savings are not able to keep to assist them. Sometimes it's lack of access to basic services, as well as market social networks, because elderly people remain at home due to elderly years, and they're not able to socialize like they did in the past. We have issues like climate change, which makes their situation worse. And the example that I can give here is the COVID-19 in 2020 and the floods that have recently, that as a country we have been recently confronted with. Then let's go to the budget. And here now I'm going to focus on social assistance, which is what the petition is all about. The total social grant allocation as announced by National Treasury is 284.7 billion. So almost 285 billion for this financial year, 2025-2026. It is also important to note that there is a task team that is comprising of DSD and SASSA that project the numbers which guides determination of the budget. Many are of the impression that social development has a prominent role in allocation of budget. But we want to come here and emphasize that the finalization of the budget lies solely with the Ministry of Finance. It's not necessarily the responsibility of social development. We see it in the task team, but Ministry of Finance finalize the budget, and that is why the budget of the country is announced by Ministry of Finance. The Social Assistance Act prescribes that there needs to be a concurrence between our minister as well as the Minister of Finance. So before we gazette our grants, Minister of Finance will communicate the proposed budget to the DSD, which the minister has to concur. In many situations. We've been in situations where the Minister of Finance will propose budget, and as DSD, we would say we are not happy with this budget. However, as I indicated, Minister of Finance has the final say. For this financial year, we were happy with the budget to the extent that we concurred without any reservation. Following the budget speech, then the DSD will publish the grant increases in the form of Government Gazette. And this we have done already in the month of March. I'm going to labor on this particular slide, and the reason being because it lays the basis of our response. Section 27 of the Constitution indicates that everyone has the right. So the key principle there is everyone, including poor children, including persons with disabilities, including vulnerable persons in our community. Everyone has the right to have access to social security, including if they are unable to support themselves and their dependents. So this is also key. We render social grants to persons that are unable to support themselves and their dependents, social assistance. The second bullet there says that the state, which is government, must take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources. Underline the available resources, because government does not have an open-ended purse. We operate within available resources. And this few years, the fiscal space in the country has been constrained. However, government has never come to a point where they have reduced the social grants budget, or we have seen a month where social grants beneficiaries have not received the grant. Since 1994, every month, all recipients of social grants have received grants without fail. And the other important element of this particular section is progressive realization of each of these rights, because we understand that we are not able to reach all or to provide all of these rights at the same time. That is why we are saying progressive realization, that other things, it depends on the resources that government has. The United Nations Article 22 Universal Declaration of Human Rights also is one of those instruments that guides the rendering of social security. And it says that it is entitled to, everyone as a member of society has the right to social security and is entitled to realization through national effort. It also highlights that everyone, and also that it depends on national effort and international cooperation in accordance with the country's resources. So it also says that it depends on the resources of a particular country. Article 9 of the 1966 International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights also says that the right of everyone to social security needs to be upheld. Within this country, following the Constitution, the country has the Social Assistance Act 2004 as amended, and regulation that prescribes the rendering of social assistance, and we have SASSA Act, which talks to the administration of these provisions. What is social assistance, or what are programs included in social assistance? It's social grants for vulnerable groups, including older persons with disabilities and children. And social assistance, when I explain it to many people, we say it's measures that are there to lift people out of poverty. Income measures that are there to lift people out of poverty. So with social assistance, we address income poverty, and that is why we provide income. We also have social relief of distress as a temporary relief measure to persons with insufficient means and in distress. And here, that is why we have COVID SRD that is temporary, that we are working hard to improve in the form of introducing what we call basic income support. This is work that the department is currently working on. And we also have assistance, social relief in times of disasters. And this is where SASSA comes in and assists families during disasters. We also have, I've indicated that we have 19 million beneficiaries. And in this 19 million beneficiaries, 4.1, as it was highlighted by Mr. Isaacs, receives older persons grant. So in this slide, we show the grant increases over the years. You will see, I'm going to make example of older person, of persons receiving from 60. In April, in 2019-20, we were giving about 1,780. In that October, we did not make any change. It remained 1,780. And in 2025-2026, you can see that we have increased the grants to 2,310. And in October, based on the budget and that we have received, it will be 2,320. However, when you look at this particular slide, you can see that government has attempted over the years to give inflation adjusted, not always, because we said it depends on resources of government, but in most instances, government has ensured that we strive towards giving inflation adjusted social grants. And when you look at this slide, I will want to take you to the child support grant, that the child support grant had received lower increases over the years. And it is shown that in 2019-20, the grant was 420, and currently the grant is 560. Even this year, the older persons grant received an increase of total of 130, now 120 and 10 rands, whereas the child support grant, it's the first time it received 30 rands, because always the increases has been 10 rands or 20. And we are really concerned as a department because the study that we did in 2 years back shows that adult poverty or child poverty is higher than adult poverty in this country. And it's so sad because these are the same children that we are assisting to become leaders of the future. However, even with provision of grants, their grant is, especially for children from impoverished families. Remember, we target children from impoverished households. Their grant is lesser, even below the food poverty line. Let's go to this grant that shows those increases. I indicated that you will see that the increases every year, it's 80, 30 rands, 90 rands, 10 rands. And remember with the older persons grant, individuals over 75, they get additional 20 rands, and you will see that there is a difference of the amounts over the years. But look at the child support grant. It's 10 rands over the years. It's only this year that we have received 30 rands in April. Then I'm going to then compare the child support grant and the older persons grant and the budget over the years. Yes, indeed, the child support grant is the biggest grant in terms of numbers. We have over 13 million beneficiaries receiving the child support grant, and we have 4.1 million persons receiving the older persons grant. But let's look at the budget. The biggest budget goes to the older persons grant, because you can see that although the numbers are big, because of the value of the grant, the biggest budget goes to the older persons grant. The numbers are 13 million, but because the grant is below the food poverty line, the budget is lower than the older persons grant. Then we analyze the slide that I just highlighted earlier. Over the past 10 years, the value of the grant has increased consistently from 1,350 in 2014 to 2,310 currently. And in October, we will add another 10 rands to make it 2,320. It is important to highlight that the older persons age 75 I indicated, they receive additional 20 rands to the total of 240 per year. Over and above this provision, older persons grant who require regular attendance receive another 560, dependent on whether they prove to SASSA or they have a report from a medical practitioner who will indicate that they need regular supervision. So those elderly people will receive an additional 560 after they have gone through the application process. So all in all, they might receive even more than the 2,320, and we have a number of them receiving the grant in aid. The grant, the older persons grant, is the second largest in terms of the numbers and the highest amount paid as compared to the other grants. This shows inflation increases over the years. I indicated earlier that as government, we strive to give inflation-adjusted grants, and you will see in this yellow highlighted rows that over the years, let's take the older persons. In 2019, the inflation was 4.1%, and the increase, the average there was 4.7. So it was above the increase. And over the years, you will see most of the increases have been above inflation. Let's take current financial year. The inflation, it is proposed to be at 4.5. And we see that the increase in terms of the budget is 5.9%. You will notice that this applies to all the grants. So that is why in the budget speech, the Minister of Finance indicated that they have given above inflation adjusted grants, although the budget was constrained. However, social grants beneficiaries were never compromised. Government attempts to always provide annual inflation increases for social grants, and I indicated that due to fiscal conditions and reduction of budgets, it sometimes results in below inflation. However, over the years, this has affected mostly the child support grant, not the older persons grant, not the disability grant, not the adult grants, but the children's grant, especially children who did not put themselves in those conditions. I need to highlight when it is said that money needs to be moved from children to the elderly. These are children who are poor. They were born in poor households. They did not put themselves in that position. And with social grants, we cannot penalize children in brackets for the situation or the socio-economic situation that their parents or their primary caregivers find themselves in. It is important to note that in the past years, the value of the older persons grant has consistently been above the food poverty line. And the next slide, I will show you these different lines, the lower bound poverty line as well as the upper bound poverty line. And in this slide just shows the values of the grants or the increases this year, and I've already spoken to this particular slide. So I'm interested in this slide. You can see that the current food poverty line that the country uses, which is 2024, the next adjusted levels of lines will come around August, September. So we are still using the 2024 poverty lines. You will see that the food poverty line is 796. The lower bound poverty line is 1,109. The upper bound poverty line is 1,634. Look at the older persons grant. The older persons grant is way higher than these three levels. And in addition, do not forget that some of them receive also additional 560. Look at the child support grant. The value of the child support grant is 560. Is below 796, is below 1,109, it's below 1,634. It makes it difficult for us, especially with the study that has been done by the department, to argue that we need to move money from the child support grant to address the challenges of the adults and where child poverty is higher than adult poverty. In the next slide, we show you the impacts of grant over the years. You have seen, we have conducted studies. And the nice thing about this slide is most of the studies are not conducted by DSD. They're even conducted by independent parties. And most of them show that the grant significantly improves the income and overall well-being of the elderly. We are not saying it addresses all the challenges, but we are saying it takes them from one level to another level, which is the aim of social assistance. I said earlier that the grant is aimed to lift people out of poverty. It addresses the other outcomes is poverty reduction, household support. Let me zoom it here. Household support, all of our grants, we say they have a pooling effect, because when you combine all those grants received by a particular household, it is able to support the elderly as well as members of their families to mitigate against economic and shocks that they are confronted with. It also have additional outcomes to other outcomes that are not necessarily social development. They improve health outcomes, they improve the dignity of beneficiaries, it has the impact in terms of social inclusion, where grant helps to alleviate social isolation among the elderly, allowing them to participate more actively in their communities. Can we move to the next slide? So what are we saying? It is important, and in the beginning, I highlighted the services that are rendered by government, that they are broader. Social protection is broader than social security. And some of these services are directed at elderly people. Minister mentioned that the grant should not be seen as a silver bullet, because this is not the only social protection measure rendered by government. There are other services. So social grants should be seen in the context of other government services that we have. And we know that we have subsidized basic services such as shelter, water, sanitation, and the first slide or the second slide highlighted some of these subsidized services. We have subsidized primary health care. We have reduced tariffs on government buses and trains. There are stipends to community caregivers who provide home-based care support to elderly persons who need help. We have subsidized lunch-on clubs and provision of meals and nutrition centers. So we are saying all these services, they are directed to assist the elderly people. So this is the broader social protection programs. You remember, we also allow some of them to participate in active aging programs. The department just concluded the national aging activities in Northwest, where some of the elderly persons participated. This slide gives our remarks that the value of the older persons grant is already the highest amongst all grants. It makes it difficult for us to argue for the increase of this particular grant because it exceeds the upper bound poverty line. In contrast, the child support grant is below the food poverty line, even though child poverty is higher than adult poverty. It also becomes very difficult because this is not the only instrument that government renders in terms of social protection. I've highlighted other services that government offers to elderly people. But in terms of the budget, if we were to increase to 5,000 for 4.1 million, it will cost government 246 billion. Let me take you to that first slide where I showed the current, not the current budget of the grant. We indicated that the budget that we have is 284.7 billion. Then if we were to increase this particular grant, it will give us almost 250 billion, which is almost the current budget of social protection. Is that feasible? Especially when we are at a situation that the country is at. I'm going back to the slide that we were on. This is almost the current social grant budget. And in the context of constrained budget, the department has to prioritize between extending coverage to those excluded or increasing the value of those already receiving social grants. We also have pressure from civil society advocating for children that the child support grant is below the food poverty line. We also have a group between 18 to 59 that is also receiving a below provision, which is the COVID SRD at the value of 370. So it makes it difficult because we are between a rock and a hard place of who should we consider first. And currently we are saying the value of the older persons grant meets all the criteria of the budget, and it's not possible for us to give elderly people 5,000. What are we recommending? It is recommended the portfolio committee notes DSD respond on the urgent call to increase the value of the older persons grant, notes the above inflation increases of the older persons grant, and further that it's very difficult to motivate for the increase in the value of the grant based on the facts that has been presented to this meeting. Notes other social protection measures rendered to vulnerable elderly persons. This brings me to the conclusion of this long presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. As a response to the petitioner's presentation or call for the increase of the older persons grant, in the letter that we received as members of Parliament of this portfolio committee, Mr. Isaac was outlining in very pertinent detail, the various aspects of a life of an older person in this country as we speak. And for me, after now having heard this presentation or response by the department, while I agree 100% with what has been said now, given the state of the situation of the country, economically speaking, and the efforts that have been made by government through this department to make sure that the older persons are looked after, as it is the mandate of this department to look after the older persons constitutionally. I agree and understand and appreciate until I just recall in my mind what the older persons had to say during the not so recent public hearings for the amendment bill that we discussed earlier on, in terms of the inadequacy of the grant, number one, because of them. I mean, everything has been said now in the two presentations that we've just listened to. And until you also see the increase in the food that has to be bought by this grant, Notably, the monthly, if I'm not mistaken, of the monthly sort of a survey that is done by the Pietermaritzburg civil society organization that I never know how to say their full name. And you see that the increase in food prices is just making this grant that has been explained so adequately and so eloquently, how it is located within a bigger basket of services to the older persons. So when you see that, and when you see how the food price increases keep going up and up and up, and how it makes the older person who is now a reparenting because of the situation that we find ourselves in, one just is haunted by this, and we will have to keep looking for ways and ideas and solutions to this issue, because everything that has been said today is true, but it does not take away the plight of the older person in this country. So thank you so much for that presentation. It does give a level of clarity and a level of, I can't say comfort, but it does give, it relieves one just to hear that, there is work that is taking place behind the scenes and there are plans in place, but the older person today is in a very different position as far as this issue is concerned. So I'm going to allow the members of the portfolio committee to comment and both on the presentation by Mr. Isaac, whom I thank very much for his presentation. I see that he has a hand up, and I just want to say that the members of the committee will have their say, and I would allow Mr. Isaac to come in at the end, obviously, because we are here because of his letter or of his petition. So, honorable members, it's over to you. Honorable Abrams, and it's Honorable Marais. And is that all from the members? Then I will, then Mr. Isaac will then have what I believe is the last word on this. Oh, Honorable Kobaza, after Honorable Marais, and then Honorable Ramaila after Honorable Kobaza. And there's another member. Oh, Honorable Takudin. And Honorable Mahato. And then it will be Mr. Isaac. In that order. Honorable Abrams, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to Mr. Isaac for his constructive input today, and also thank you to the department for, the facts that they've presented to us as well. Chairperson, I don't think any one of us can, really debate what Mr. Isaac has presented to us regarding the very vulnerable position that many of the seniors who rely on the old age grant find themselves in. We hear it and see it in our constituencies. We've heard it, as you mentioned, in the public hearings on the Older Persons Amendment Bill. And many of us, have had grandparents and relatives who find themselves in similar situations of hardship. And I do think it's important to, mention that the old age grant, it is means tested. It's on a sliding scale, so not everybody receives the full amount. And, for some seniors, the grant may suffice, especially those who have family support. However, my concern, Chairperson, lies with the individuals who have nobody to lean on, who is the sole provider for their family, which in the DSD presentation put that figure at 67.2%. So that is a significant number of seniors who then find themselves in that category. Chairperson, I also want to, note that, some old age homes and residential facilities, they take the entire old age grant and they leave seniors with very little or nothing. They can't even buy themselves a suite, as, a senior in a home once told me. Yet many still choose that route because the alternative of, living in poverty without just the basic necessities which old age homes provide, such as shelter and food and so forth, is far worse. So it is really a dire situation that, seniors find themselves in. And, thank goodness there's no increase to VAT to add to that burden. And Chairperson, I think, from the position I'm in, from, my point of view, I don't think it's really constructive to compare grants and to compare which category of destitute in terms of the grants, are getting what and how much they're getting. Because that to me is not constructive. It's taking from Peter to pay Paul, in my point of view, when the real problem that we are facing with is that there's just not enough money, not enough taxpayers' money to go around for the people because of crippling public wage bill and fruitless and wasteful expenditure and widespread corruption and so on and so on. And, I think we maybe share the sentiment that, yes, seniors do deserve a much better grant, but due to budget constraints and without a thorough, spending review of all departments and all entities across all spheres of governments and departments, that can't be done. And I do think, Chairperson, that DSD's presentation, although they stated a lot of what they are doing and some of the facts, they do lack solutions to this problem. And my questions that I was thinking about as I went through the presentation is, could this have been prevented, and how will future generations relying on old age grants not find themselves in the same situation? So how do we break the cycle and ensure that elderly, are financially secure in their retirement? And, I was thinking about, if the department has done any studies, because it was mentioned that the department is regularly conducting studies and research into, older persons. But if they've done then any studies into automatic enrollments, so, people who are currently in employment, in their working age group, in employment, that they are introduced automatic enrollments in pensions and saving schemes with, opt-out options later on, because many people with stable jobs either don't save for retirement or they save too little for retirement, which then brings me to my next thought is, why is that the case? And the other point is, what is government doing to introduce and promote more financial literacy and to educate people on the importance of savings? Because from my perspective, if you haven't been raised in a household where you are taught good financial habits, or you don't have the opportunity to take an economics or financial course at tertiary level, chances are slim that you will be making good financial decisions early on in life, which will then impact you, later on in life. Because as the minister also said in her open remarks, social grants is unsustainable. You can't live on it alone. And then also to look at, why is it that this then category of people, seniors, why haven't they then, saved adequately for retirement? What were the barriers to that? And once again, I'm talking about individuals who actually are in employment. And then, of course, maybe a third proposal, Chairperson, is to enhance savings and retirement tax incentives and offer competitive rates for low-income groups. So to make it so attractive that it becomes impossible, or rather irresponsible, not to save. And from my perspective, as part of constructive solutions going forward, Chairperson, just these three measures in the long term has the potential to reduce the dependency of state grants, therefore freeing up more, freeing up more money to increase financial support to those who need it more. Because we also have to accept that, there are many individuals who will either remain unemployed or unemployable for their entire lives, living from hand to mouth, who then cannot save. And Chairperson, we've just yesterday, had many debates in Parliament that looked at our unemployment rates, and that even our youth unemployment rate is at 70%. And it is frightening to consider that that group of people, of young people, could face worse or similar circumstances in their future when they are, senior and dependent on what is now maybe outdated social grant systems, and unless we take proactive steps, I wonder about the young people of today when they reach, that age group. So I'm in agreement, Chairperson, that government needs to do more to assist elderly present day, but also to prevent future generations from ending up in similar hardships. Then, Chairperson, I just also need clarity in Mr. Isaac's presentation today. He's just speaking of a 500 Rand increase, whereas, in the letter it says that the old age grant must be a minimum of 5,000. So DSD, did their costing analysis on that 5,000. And I just would like to know if they can't, while we ask questions, do a recosting on, 500 Rand increase. Like, what would that be on the fiscus? And then, lastly, just in closing, Chairperson, DSD's presentation also failed to mention the ongoing review process when it comes to old age grant beneficiaries. And from my experience, when I talk to seniors, whenever they do this review with SASSA, they always receive less money back. They never ever get more money. And I just would like, I know SASSA is on the platform, to get some clarity on how these beneficiaries are selected for review. Is it at random? And how come so many of them end up with reduced grants when it comes to this? And yes, Chairperson, I just want to, reiterate that is a very painful topic. And it's like the Minister alluded to in her opening remarks. It has to be the priority of, the Government of National Unity, to focus on economic growth and job creation, which directly correlates with more individuals being able to adequately save for retirement. So thank you, Chairperson. That would be my input on this topic.
Thank you, Honorable Abrams. Honorable Murray.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I want to say thank you for the input of Mr. Isaacs and then also the department. Chairperson, I also would like to discuss the thing of the pension grants that is not enough. And like you were saying earlier on, Chairperson, the food prices are so high, electricity prices are so high, the older people cannot cope with the cost of living, Chairperson. Chairperson, the point that I want to make, in the one slide, the lady was saying that old people don't save enough money for the old age time when they retire. I want to make an example of a few places that I know that is the Department of Education. I will speak of Eros School. It's a disabled school where they have small classes. They have a teacher's aide. But for the past 5 years, those teachers' aid never got increases. It got nothing to do with the department. But those people they don't even deduct a pension fund or a provident fund. My neighbor next door passed away. The wife only found out for 25 years he's been working for the municipality. When he was supposed to be buried, she found out he was never even a permanent worker. So they never deducted pension fund or provident fund. So there's a lot of departments that is keeping people like ShopRite, Checkers. You can work there for 20 years. You will be on a casual basis and you're not permanent. And for that, a lot of people don't have pension funds. A lot of people don't save because the money that they are earning, it is just from hand to mouth. Chairperson, then I want to say a lot of old age homes, like the previous speaker was saying, is taking the whole SASSA pension. I know of one because I'm assisting there. But because that pension, that old age home doesn't get any assistance from the Department of Social Development, nothing. She's doing everything out of her pocket and she's doing a very good service. But with that pension money that she's deducting, she makes sure that she pays the people's funeral benefits, and then make sure when it's come to winter, she will buy them winter clothes, underwear, roll-ons, and stuff like that. So these people that is looking after these old people have no other choice but to take the whole pension fund because they must provide basically everything to these old people. Chairperson, and if you look at our grandparents, older persons, the only pension that is coming in is from that older person, from the pensioner. And she basically maintained that whole family. She basically, because all the children and grandchildren, that is teenagers, that is grown people, are unemployed because of the unemployment rate that is standing for the young people at 70%. So that pension comes in and it goes out the very same day. And like the presenter was saying earlier on, that people do get free water and free electricity. But I want to disagree with that lady. She's saying older persons will fall under indigent group because they fail. I'm saying that because the indigent group, you must get less than 4,200 Rand to get into the indigent. But for the indigent group, you only get 50 units of electricity for the month. 50 units doesn't even last for 2 days. So where is the free electricity and the free water? You get a certain kilowatt of water that is for free. But just the other day, a lady notified me from Overstrand. She's a pensioner staying in her own house, and her water was cut by the municipality because she couldn't pay it. Automatically, when you are a SASSA recipient, your name must go through the municipality's database to say that this is an indigent person. She must get free water and electricity, and all the other outstanding debt are being written off. But instead of writing off this indigent person, they hand you over to the lawyers, and the lawyers is charging 10 times more than what the municipality is charging. And these old people cannot stand the stress knowing that they can't pay for this. That is why a lot of them just go to the old age home because it's better for them, even though they're not happy. So I just want to say, while we are saying that, yes, there's free electricity and free water, how much are they getting for free? Even though they say that there is certain types of food stuff that is you're paying less for. But if you look at the percentage of people that is having high blood pressure and diabetes, it's because of the diet that they are having for not affording the food that they're supposed to eat. So the money that is going for Department of Health is because of lack of proper dieting that these people are having all these illnesses. So Chairperson, I want to touch on what Mr. Isaac was saying about the children that is getting money. I agree that children that parents are not working must get some type of maintenance, some type of to make sure that they are having something to eat. I agree with the schools that is not charging the children, but I want to make an example. I was working at the company and I was working with just ladies. And these ladies, majority of them were earning a very good salary. But because you don't work at the department, they don't show your salary when you go for a SASSA grant for children. These ladies were making jokes of it that, you know what, this money is my spending money. They will go buy biltong, whatever. So I want to know, what is the criteria that SASSA is using and the department are using to monitor these things, that young ladies that is having children, that is working. It was meant for people that doesn't get any income, to make sure that these children are having something to eat. But what if the mother and the father is working and they are still getting this social grant for the children? what is SASSA have in place to ensure that those people are the ones that is not recipients of these things? Because a lot of people do need it. They really, really need it. And then that other people doesn't need it, but they are there. So I also want to say an increase of the oldest person pension. My amount was 4,500 rand. We know it is not possible because of the unemployment rate and because of the money that they are getting. But we need to have a look and see what are we going to do to make sure that these older persons are surviving on a daily basis, because they cannot survive with this money that they're having. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mare. We will go over to the Honorable Reverend Kobaza.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Greeting again to honorable members and everyone. Chairperson, the situation on the ground, the grant of elderlies have become the source of income on everything that they are doing. They are dependent on it, and it is true that it has become the source. There is nothing they can do without this money. So we need this money increased. As in today, I think Mr. Isaac, who has brought in the case, while everyone else was crying, but no one was heard in terms of the increase. But again, how did we come to this space? We have come to this space purely because of the oppression, purely of the apartheid systems that has got us to this space. The elderly that are living today, or those who are earning grants today, they are earning grants because they don't have pensions. A lot of them, they were working in farms, and on those farms, there is no pension anymore, or they did not have any pension for them. So now, the case here is not the matter of just the grant only, but it is the case of the system, the whole system of government, on how to rectify the system of apartheid, the system that was done by the whites, because it is not, you can go in the whole of Africa and look at how are we addressing the issue of the elderly and the issue of the grant system in the country, and look at other countries, how they are doing it. I think South Africa maybe is the best in that. But the system itself does not allow our people to get out of this system. I would have loved Mr. Isaac to go on as he wrote to the president and everyone where he wrote, to write to the conglomerate of the world, the multinational who are running ShopRites, Pick n Pay, Boxers, all of these shops, because the elderly cannot buy that food basket because they are raising prices each and every day. And what must happen at the end of the day is that the state must increase the grant, just because those retails, they're increasing money and they don't care about our elderly. So the system itself of the economy of these capitalists, they are there just to take and take and take. It means that the 117 billion that goes to the elderly people, the bulk of this money goes on food. And the food that today they cannot afford. 20 years ago, they could afford with the amount of money that they got that time, but today they can't. And it is not just because prices are rising up, no. The price of the cabbage from the farm is 3.50 rand, and it gets to ShopRite or Boxer, it's 25 rand. You can't tell me that amount of money or that amount of increase, and then the Gogos will have to go there and buy these things. But it's not because it's the cost of growing the cabbage. It is the capitalists of this country and internationally. The food system, the food is shooting up each and every day, and they will not be able to afford with this money that they are getting from the government. And it is true, if an elderly is over 65 or somebody that is over 65 today, that means that they will have a child who is over 18, that they will not be earning grant anymore. So now this money that is there, it is the money for the whole family. It is the money for the granny. It is the money for the whole family, because people here, they are old, they are not earning anything, they are not working anymore. So the system is there, is not allowing them to work. Those who are producing, they cannot produce for anyone because the markets are closed for the few to benefit out of that market. The whole thing has been done. Poverty is man-made. It's a system that is made by the few people that are sitting there, and they want to benefit out of all the money that has been given to the elderly of this country. It is true that there are a number of grants that we are paying, but still it cannot. Still it cannot make that food basket for everyone inside the house to be able to eat, to be able to go somewhere, to be able to, that amount of money, it does not make it. And today, number of our Gogos, they have loans, and the loan sharks, they take the money because the system itself, they borrow money, they go to where they're supposed to get money, and they don't get money. And it is terrible on the ground what is happening. So yes, money can be increased, but if we don't fix the whole system, especially the system of capitalists, where the capitalists are taking all the money, even the Gogo can earn 10,000 rand, they will take the whole money, they will increase everything, and they will take this whole money again. So I think it's not a matter of social development when it comes to this. It is an economic system that is here in South Africa, designed to keep the poor hungry in poverty, keep the poor dependent on the state, so that the whole money again be taken back to those capitalists. So I think we must look deep into this. And again, as it does not touch the social development department only, it touches across. We're looking at economy, we're looking at education, we're looking at everything. So I think that is my contribution, Chair, at this point in time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Reverend Kwabaza, for your contribution. I will go straight to the Honorable Ramaila.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the Minister, Deputy Minister, officials, and my colleagues. Yes, Chair, I first want to appreciate the presentation by Mr. Isaac, and I must say his concern resonates with quite a number or many of us, and therefore it's a fact what is raising. But also, given the current fiscal funding challenges that we have as a country, and especially given the withdrawal of the 0.5% VAT increase, and while the proposed alternatives may not immediately come into fruition, that may then disable the current fiscal framework or make it difficult to see how the fiscal framework may be able to absorb the proposed increase of 500 by Mr. Isaac. And we fully share with him the challenges that senior people find themselves in the country. But in my view, however, cutting a child support grant is not an option. In my view, it's not something that we even want to look at. We can't even look at it as an option. But I also want to talk to something that he mentioned in passing. Unfortunately, with regard to the promiscuity, because if you look at promiscuity, especially with the race group that he referred to, and this obviously comes as a result of use of apartheid. But also, if you look at the relationship between poverty and promiscuity, you come to a different understanding and appreciate what poverty-stricken people are faced with. And obviously, there's a complex relationship between promiscuity and poverty. And we studies suggesting that poverty and related socioeconomic factors can increase the likelihood of individuals engaging in risky sexual behaviors, including promiscuity. So let's not be judgmental in this instance. Quite a number of poor communities find themselves in these situations, not of their own making. I'm sure the previous leaders speakers have made mention to this, and I fully agree that people find themselves in these situations, and not because of their own making, but because of the circumstances that are beyond their control. And we have to really, for us to be able to address this challenge, we really have to be alive to these kind of challenges that are facing the country. We are in an economic stagnation as we speak, and I'm sure all of us know that. We are at a situation where the relationship between economic growth and population growth goes different direction. In other words, we have what we call an inverse relationship. An inverse relationship in the sense that we have the population growth outpacing the economic growth. And now that's why South Africa is in a kind of fiscal challenges that we are faced with, in which case And the proposal by the minister was quite clear, and the presentation by the reviewer was quite clear. That the proposal that are there in the fiscal framework is even to go above the breadline in accommodating social grants inclusive of old age pension. Now, given this situation, whilst we appreciate the scenario painted by Mr. Isaac affecting senior people at this juncture, it will then become impossible to consider increase by 500 rand for the old age pensioners. And I think that's where we are. And these are realities of the economic challenges that we are faced with. And the only solution is going to be that for all of us to work together in ensuring that we invest in those aspects that will ensure there's going to be economic growth in the country. And once there's economic growth in the country, we know what the economic spin-offs thereof will be. There will be job opportunities and all those sorts of things. And as the economy grows, we know inverse relationship again, poverty will begin to slow down. And in that sense, more jobs will be created. There will be more money available from the fiscals to maybe one even to consider proposals such as this one. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ramaila. I will hand over now to Honorable Takudin.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to my colleagues, honorable members. Chair, I just have two things. I just want to know what action is the department taking to combat fraud and corruption within the grant system, particularly in the cases where illegal foreigners has been unduly benefited. And then the main thing on everybody's lips, the 130 Rand adjustment. The presentation looks good, but it's really not above inflation rate to give 130 Rand, because what must pensioners do with those for the 130 Rand increase? Then also to SASSA, with the implementation of your cards, your swapping of the cards. Pensioners are still experiencing delays in receiving their payments due to this ongoing system. So we just want to know, when will these glitches be sorted in the system? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Takudin, for that. And the Honorable Mahatu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me welcome the report and appreciate it. Honorable Chair, the historical imbalances of the past funding gap resulted in the fiscal funding due to inclusion of the previously disadvantaged in order to achieve universal access. And at the same time, poor economic growth exacerbated by COVID-19 has also made the situation more difficult for Treasury to consider making a significant increase in grant allocation. So you can see that should the economy improve, positive upwards adjustments, it will be highly possible. So those are my ways for this report. The other thing is that I also checked the difference between the child grant and the older person's grant. Maybe they can only explain on that matter. I've seen it previously when they were explaining their report. So all in all, those are my ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mahatu. Now, I would like to echo and align myself as well as a member of this portfolio committee with each and every word that has been spoken. And it is becoming clearer and clearer that as we are faced with these challenges, it actually opens our minds to think outside the box, as some honorable members were saying, you know, and I think even the department's presentation did say that it's not only the Department of Social Development that should be responding to this issue and other issues like it, but it is supposed to go back to the whole of society approach, where we work together to ensure that the environment itself is such that the economy grows, the people get jobs, so more money is redirected to the categories of our society, such as the older persons. But what remains the issue is that the older persons now that are being affected like this are not going to stop their lives while we are discussing among ourselves what it is that we can do. And one can only hope that, you know, other stakeholders will also come on board and come up with their ideas so that we can find a solution to this. But I just wanted to again thank the department for this, and now say that I'm not sure whether I should give back first to the department to respond to the comments and questions that were raised by the honorable members. And I hear from the questions that we would have to also hear from SASSA, but that would be handled by the department in terms of how those questions will be responded to, because we do need them to be responded to. But perhaps I think that Mr. Isaac must come in first, in case the comments he wanted to make at the beginning of the deliberations section of the meeting can also be part of the response by the department. So, Mr. Isaac, I know that you've been patient since you raised your hand, but I thought that you should have the last word in this deliberation thing before the department responds. Over to you, Mr. Isaac.
Honorable Chair, thank you for that. There are a couple of things that I wish to make mention. Okay, let me first go to what the department presented. Now, I'm not disputing the fact that the country has spent so many mega millions on water and sanitation, electricity. I'm not disputing that under no circumstances. I fail to understand why the department would come and present all those things, and then when you talk about Section 8, then you cite the mandate. I have no objection when you cite the mandate. It is, I think it is common cause that you would cite the mandate. However, this thing is kind of like a complex thing. I know, okay, I'm not going to mention the people's names. However, I would just say the honorable members, because I can assure you I've forgotten quite a number of their names, so please do forgive me. But I will try and touch base and cover quite a number of key issues that was brought to the table. When the department references the fact that the child support grant, now I pose a specific question in the sense that and then even though I use the word promiscuous and lascivious, let me put it into simple text. If, for argument's sake, I am a teenager and I have sex with my girlfriend and she falls pregnant, my question is, can she, if she must fall pregnant, can she then tap into this thing and then ask for and apply for a child support grant? Yes or no? If the answer is no, good and well, then okay, then it remains to be seen. And then I have to re-look at this thing. If the answer is yes, that my girlfriend can apply for a child support grant, then I think that becomes unfair because where am I in this whole equation? Where is my girlfriend's parents in order to support? That is my first argument. The second thing is, I'm not saying in essence that one needs to take away child support grant. The question is, what is the criteria? And then one of your honorable members has made mention, what criteria do you then use if you say child support grant? Because is it a single-headed household? And therefore that person, because it is a child support grant, that one gets that 500 and something rand, because if that is the case, if that household is obviously run by that so-called single-headed child, then it becomes a different ballgame, because then I would argue you are 100% correct. You can't take away from Peter to pay Paul, but here comes the rider to it. If my first argument is my girlfriend is pregnant, she can apply for the child support grant, then I'm saying on that basis, you take it away from that person, because then you shift the money towards the pensioners. So that is where that comes in. I know the first honorable member referenced the issue of the 500 rand, 5,000 rand scenario. The 500 rand scenario that I spoke about, that I alluded to, is the fact that, hypothetically speaking, half of those persons that fall within the category of child support grant, let's go on the assumption that it is the girlfriend that is basically now pregnant, and now they can tap into child support grant because now the department gives them that 530 rand. So on that basis, you try and target them and you take away that money, because what message are we sending to society? It is fine, you can do whatever you want to. The state is there to foot the bill. That is the wrong message that we are sending. When you talk about the pensioners, remember, if food goes up, if electricity goes up, water, all those things, it goes up. Now remember, a pensioner, when that pensioner goes to where the ShopRite, Pick n Pay, irrespective as to where they go, when they are there by the till and they swipe all the items, the till does not look at the person's face and say, okay, your ID says that you are 60 something, or your face looks as if you are a pensioner, so now I can charge you a less amount. That's not the way that things operate. What you send through, what gets scanned, is what you have to pay. You have to foot the bill. So on that basis, how do we support the pensioners? We can't. We have to look at other ways and means in order to accommodate them, so that even irrespective of the past imbalances, I'm not here to talk about the past imbalances. Less to say, we are in the situation as this present moment. You look at an area where I come from, which is Kaapkraal. Close to me and around me, there are informal settlements. Now, those people, it is because of circumstances that they are forced to live under those conditions. Now, again, in that informal settlements, and I think there's about 19 or 21 informal settlements close to where I live. Do you think it is fair for them? They might have sold off their house because they couldn't afford something. They get the social grant or the old age pensions grant. And do you really think it is fair upon them? Because in that little informal settlement / shack, remember, there are so many other members. But it doesn't also mean that those members that are within that household also receives some type of grant. So the entire family, I'm talking about the little ones, turns to the mother or the father or gogo and say, listen, in terms of your pension that you're getting, you need to buy this, you need to buy that. And that poor lady or that poor man, his or her money needs to go for the entire family. So those are the arguments that I'm currently putting forward. I'm also not saying that we need to increase immediately to 5,000 rand. I'm saying, where is the dignity in the old persons? I'm saying, as a start, as an interim, as a sign of goodwill and gesture towards the pensioners, why can't we not look at those persons? I'm talking about the having sex and having a child, and the state puts the bill. Why can't we tap into that? So on that basis, I'm saying you take from Peter in order to pay Paul, because obviously it warrants the fact that you need to take from the one in order to increase the pension amount of the old pensions. So that is that one. Okay, I already covered the fact that pensioners pay the same amount when it comes to the bill. That one is sorted out. Just see what criteria. Okay, I've also asked a question, what criteria is being used when you look at a child support grant? Are there various categories? Who falls within what category? And it is open to whether fraud or whatever. So is it not time that we rather re-look and rethink and revisit the entire process to see those that are getting whatever grants, that they are eligible to obtain it, and they are worthy of it, or they qualify in order to receive those things? Because those are the facets that we need to look at, because we need to tighten the screws. And as a society, we have failed our pensioners. When the Honorable Minister makes reference to the fact that we look at many years ago up until now, it has been a gradual increase, so much percentage, and it is now 2,000. In layman's terms, I think, Honorable Member, okay, let me rather count my words or stop dead in my track. I think that scenario needs to be relooked at, because that amount of 2,100 or 2,310 rand is, in my humble opinion, a smack in the face of each and every pensioner out there that has contributed to the society as such, and therefore for you to use that as an argument in order as to why we cannot increase, respectfully said, I don't accept that thing. Okay, it's kind of like debatable. Okay, I know in terms of your presentation as well, you make the assumption that the child support grant can be quite a bit in a household. That is making the assumption that within a household there could be several child support grants that makes up a quite a bit. On what basis do you put forward that as a reasonable argument? Because not in all households do you find multiple grants in order to cushion the blow of in terms of food, water, electricity, or sometimes rates that they need to pay. So that in a nutshell is just my appeal to this portfolio committee somewhere, somehow, and I know this is kind of like a complex thing, but as a society, as people, or maybe like-minded people, maybe we need to find other ways and means, look at whatever our system is, how can we improve, and look at other ways and means that we are able to generate funds or even take away. I mean, I say that if you want to say take from Peter to pay Paul, you take maybe from other government departments that is maybe not necessary to spend, or where there's always a rollover year in and year out. You take out that money in order to cushion the blow for our pensioners. That in a nutshell is my presentation. If I have offended anyone, please, I do seek your forgiveness. It was never my intention to, because at the end of the day, also today, when I do know, even those pensioners, that on whichever groups, the 56,000 on the one group, and the others are going to ask me, so what has the committee decided? And I know none of you, none of the honorable members on this group is able to provide me with a positive feedback that I can take to those pensioners. But I have to see how this thing unfolds, and hopefully through this committee, we can find a solution that covers those pensioners that in time to come, they will get a sizable increase and not the 10 rand or 90 rand or 100 rand or 130 rand, a sizable increase that they can live. Right now, they are in this situation, and many of them can't really wait until Thy Kingdom come in order to see those benefits. Thank you. That's all that I have to say. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Isaac. I want to thank you for coming through and for your presentation and this follow-up that you have made after the department's presentation, and also the comments that were made by the honorable members of this committee. You would be aware, I'm sure, that you did not come with an expectation that you were going to get either from the department or from the committee that as from such and such a date, there will be an increase of so much, because as you understand, this is a process. What you have brought before this committee is the process that must be looked at by all relevant stakeholders, and all we are here as the members of the portfolio committee is to oversee and oversight rather those processes. So with that, and appreciating your honesty and your frankness in your presentation, and accepting your apology where you feel that you sounded, frustrated and had to say things you probably would not have to say in a different context and circumstance. So I want to hand over to the department. I'm not even going to say who. I'm just comforted by the fact that the Honorable Minister is here, the DG is here, and the senior management of the department are here. So I would like to hand over to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very much. For handing over to us. This is how we are going to deal with this matter. I think I've summed it up to say it's bigger than just the Department of Social Development. With that, we will provide answers to questions that have been raised, that some of them are related, some of them are not related to the topic today. But there are other issues that have been raised, and then at the end, I will ask the minister to do the remarks after we have answered specific questions. We appreciate the opportunity on this matter, which hinges on the economic growth and the economy of the country in terms of what the country can afford and what it cannot afford. But specifically, there are some few questions that you have asked, which I will request specific executive managers of the department to respond to. And I think this issue also is much more broader. I think if we have to look at it touches with every government department in South Africa, and it also touches at the fiscal framework of the country. But we will only provide you with these answers in terms of what we have done. There is questions that have been asked specific with regard to studies done, the education that we are giving to our older persons or persons that are receiving the social assistance, and also what will it take us if we increase by 500 to 5,000. We will also deal with issues of old age home. There's some questions that have been asked. So I will ask Maureen to answer the three questions on top. We'll ask SASSA to give us a response, the specific questions asked about the review others, which I think, Honorable Person, we will, I can see there's a need for us as a department to sit down and discuss all these things with the Portfolio Committee, because questions crops in to something else, which is, but we appreciate. And then we will ask Civil just to give us the issue of the old age homes and taking of the grants that they have. And also we will then ask, then I will come back and ask the Minister for a remark. Maureen, you can start.
Thank you, Didi. And it's true that the concerns raised are broader than social development. Some are national, the Department of Finance, others lie in other departments. However, the specific questions relating to questions on social assistance. Let me start with the question that was asked in relation to how much will it cost if we consider 500. Indeed, we considered 5,000 because that was what was in the letter. But taking note of what Mr. Isaacs indicated about, and the question that was asked, it will cost an additional 25 billion if we had to increase with 500. So the total addition that we might need as a country, if we increase the older persons grant for 4.1 million beneficiaries, again, it will be 25 billion. On the issue of comparing the two grants, indeed, it's not a constructive argument. However, we were requested to do that, and that is why we ended up having to compare the two, because it was one of the requests in the letter. In terms of the studies that have been conducted, we continuously do a lot of work. Years back, we did a study on an internal kind of study, a desktop study on the old age poverty, and that is why some of those questions, we were able to get some of the stats there. The study that we are currently have commissioned work on is looking at the feasibility of removing spousal means test. We have just appointed a service provider to do that work for us. It will take us a year for us to do that work. It contains both quantitative and qualitative analysis of the situation. So that is the study that we are currently conducting. However, SASSA and have done a number of studies on of older persons, and that is where most of the data comes from. When it comes to the issue of what are we doing to educate beneficiaries on financial literacy? Some years back, we developed a booklet on basic finance for social grant beneficiaries, and we have developed material. And when we do, we go to communities, we touch on this particular training. We still have to translate it to other, it's now in English, we're still working towards translating it to other languages so that we can embark on a broader campaign to share with our beneficiaries basic finance. So it's basic, it explains the grants, what the usages of the grant, things that they need to avoid, tips in terms of savings and so on. So that is what the department as SASSA has done in that area. And when it comes to, I think, DG, I've answered the ones that you, unless if I've left, the others will be SASSA related. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Can I ask the acting CEO of SASSA to answer those ones that related to SASSA specifically. Rabak.
DG Brenton will answer this so that it was easier.
Is it on? Good morning, good morning, Honorable Chairperson, members, Minister. With regards to the question that was asked around reviews, whether it's random or targeted, we do both, but in the main we prefer targeted reviews. And my apologies, I seem to be off. Oh, okay. What we do is mainly do targeted reviews where if we get information from a data source that suggests that the person may have income, we would then call that person in for a review, noting that the legislation does compel beneficiaries to inform us if there's any changes in their circumstances. But if we also then discover any changes in their circumstances or that they haven't informed us appropriately of their circumstances when they applied for the grant, we then need to call the beneficiary in for a review to ensure that we accurately have the information captured. And that often is then, Honorable Abrams, what results in many people getting a reduced grant. As you correctly mentioned, the old age grant is on a sliding scale. So depending on what your income is, you may get a lower value of the old age grant once you've done the review and you've declared all your income. And this, as one of the other members is mentioned as well, in terms of what are we doing to root out fraud within the system. The review system is one of the key mechanisms where we do regularly analyze data from different sources to see who may have not necessarily declared their full incomes when they initially applied for the grant, or declared any changes in income post application of the grant, and as a result, then we call in people for reviews, and we've seen quite a significant number of both on the child support grant where people have gained employment and not informed us, but we've also seen even with old age pensioners, where, especially for example, when we review data from the government employees pension database, that we've discovered that quite a few pensioners have also applied for the grant and not informed us that they had a pension. And as a result, then we do then call them in for reviews and adjust the pension accordingly with the new information they provide us. DJ, I think that was it.
Thank you very much. Stephen, online, the issue of, I think there was a question with regard to the older person's home.
You have muted yourself, DG.
No. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was saying I will now ask several of you to give us some just response on the older persons and old age homes and the issue with regards to how they manage the old age homes in the country, taking the pension, the pensioners' pensions, etc., etc. How about you, Stephen?
Thank you very much, DG, and let me greet the Minister and honorable members, and greetings to yourself, DG, and the leadership of this department. I just want to indicate, DG, that the issue of subsidies that are not standardized across all the provinces remain a very critical challenge for us as a department. Indeed, it is a reality that subsidies are varying across all the provinces. And we have, if members would have some recollection, that over the past years, there was a process that the department embarked upon, specifically linked to the outcome of the Naongo matter. And we have also done a lot of good work pertaining to moving towards making sure that we subsidize equally across all provinces. But there are so many other elements that creep into this space when one looks at the provision of a comprehensive basket of services within these old age homes or within these residential care facilities, and the levels of care as well, depending on whether a person is independent or the person is dependent or the person is frail. So those elements are also elements that we need to also consider, but also bearing in mind that the entire, process of making sure that our older persons receive these kinds of grants is specifically to make sure that they are well looked after. That is the overall intention of the state, to make sure that our older persons are well looked after. So what we have also discovered as we do our monitoring and evaluation activities across these facilities is that we note that where higher amounts of grants are being taken by the facility and there's commitment to the provision of quality care, norms and standards are adhered to by such facilities, and we find that our older persons are happier because they do receive, good quality care. We do know that the issue of older persons not remaining with anything from their grant has emerged during the recent public hearings, and also in the previous public hearings that we held with the previous portfolio committee. And we understand, the impact of this kind of an arrangement. So having noted all these concerns that have been raised by our older persons, what we have also considered is that when we do come to the point of coming up with regulations that are going to be kicking in soon, noting the level at which we are in terms of the finalization of the Older Persons Amendment Bill, we will be taking into consideration this key issue when we do the drafting of the regulations, specifically to make sure that we guide our providers of services to older persons in terms of a reasonable percentage that can accommodate them in terms of providing a proper core package of services to our older persons, but also enable our older persons to remain with something. Discussions that have gone throughout the years was that perhaps an 85% would be proper for facilities to retain, and then the balance go to older persons so that they can be able to look at procuring some of the basic goods for themselves. So I just wanted members to know that at this point in time, the varying subsidies across provinces are quite, vast in some areas. When you look at what the Free State is providing at this, what KZN is providing at this stage, for example, is 2,999, and Gauteng is providing subsidies at 2,750. And when you look at this, the differences might look quite small, but it is quite a high amount of money in terms of the eye of older persons. If one is to look at this and you do your analysis across all provinces, you'll pick up all these disparities. And that's what we are saying we will try and close during the development of regulations. I also lastly want to say the other element that we need to look at this situation from is the provision of care from a private facility perspective, where people pay over 10,000 rand, for example, per month. When you look at that, you would be able to realize that indeed our facilities that are government subsidized indeed require top up of this grant to be able to pay to provide a proper services at acceptable standards, at acceptable levels, and within the correct qualities. So that top up must also be considered, because it's not only the grant that can be able to provide, services within the acceptable norms and standards and service levels and qualities. So I thought I needed to also paint this picture, DG. I hope and trust that I have been able to respond to the request. And just also lastly to say, we have been able to re-look into our funding policy, and it has been improved post that particular process that I made reference to. And I think with that, supporting the work that we are doing in terms of the legislative framework, we should be able to move towards improvement of services in terms of the provision of quality care for our older persons. Thank you, DG.
In terms of the questions, I think that are direct, yes, I think we are done. Can I delegate upwards for my Honorable Minister for remarks, also answer some of the questions. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, DG. Once again, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members, we must emphasize the fact that we really had an opportunity to put the picture before you, a picture that to an extent you are aware of, because just this morning you were very hard at work as you presented before this committee the Older Persons Amendment Bill, which its process put us into a situation where it laid bare the project, the challenges that Mr. Isaac have just articulated. Us getting out to go and hear, especially the honorable members, they got out to go and hear from the elder persons themselves, what they are going through, the challenges that they had to endure. That process was really a process that made us to understand the plight of the elder persons. However, we might apologize if we sound arrogant when we say ours is limited, because the provider of the money is in fact Treasury, which both myself and our presenter articulated the environment we're operating in when we have an economy that is not doing well. To an extent, we're experiencing a fiscus that is shrinking by day. And that makes it very difficult for us to extend as wide as we can, because ours is just to dispatch, having received from the National Treasury. We're quite aware of all those challenges. This bill made us to be very clear on what they are going through. But we are unable to pronounce ourselves on matters that talk to Department of Treasury, for an example. But we understand, as part of Government of National Unity, the difficulties that the country is going through. We shall never underestimate all the difficulties that Mr. Isaac have articulated. We understand them very well. We are directed by the Constitution of the Republic, as well as the mandate that has been delegated to us. As such, there isn't much we can do outside that, because remember, this is a democratic country. Anything outside the Constitution, you are the country and the society, it does have a right to take you to court so that you can go and explain yourself on why it is the case. With all those difficulties, we had to adhere to our mandate. We had to adhere to the limited resources that are provided to us, that we must dispatch to our elder persons and all other vulnerable groups. We can't at any given time even start to say who must get more than which one, because all that is within the Constitution, and all the effects that are being laid bare by the doctor who presented on behalf of DSD. So I want to emphasize, Chair, that what we are doing is trying to come closer on the reality of what our people, especially elder people, are going through. Yes, we might have, we are falling short because of the realities that we all articulated, to say the fiscus is shrinking. Therefore, what we are being provided for as grants shall never be enough. Beyond that, I think the bill took us through to an extent of recommending that all departments should work together so that it can be able to resolve some of the outstanding matters. For instance, the issue of crime. As I heard you, Honorable Chairperson, in the committee, committing that you are going to meet with SAPS, which are the sector that is responsible for crime, because you don't just do that for the sake of doing, but the process that takes you to where you are insofar as the bill is concerned, forced you to be able to sit with SAPS, because it doesn't matter, as the Honorable Member was saying, if we give them 10,000 tomorrow, but the level of crime outside there where they are is so overwhelming. So we need to deal with this thing on a manner that is going to be inclusive, not only us, but all other departments. Department of Water, for instance, the local government, they stay somewhere in a ward, in a VD. And for that reason, there's no way that you can just have a bill without talking to COGTA and everyone else who have a responsibility to provide those services to our elder persons and make sure that by law, they benefit out of all these arrangements that are created for them to at least pay lesser as they are pensioners into those for those services that they are supposed to receive. So I want to emphasize the fact that, Chair, we really appreciate the exercise that we made to embark to. We are also accepting the advisors that we got from the honorable members. We wish, as we go, as Doc has articulated, in the fact that there's work that is being done already in further research on other ways to make sure that we cushion our elder person. However, it should not be against anyone else. It should not be at the detriment of any other sector, but it will be a situation where we deal with the problem that we are facing at the present moment. Hence, I want to again appreciate the effort by Mr. Isaac of being this brave in raising these matters, articulate them bravery to make sure that they are being understood and people are aware of what the elder persons are going through. And the responsible people like ourselves as a department can also be made aware, and some advisors are being introduced to them. We are accepting all that, but we do put before you to say, unless things changed around, we will not be able alone to really raise all these monies and make sure that they get what we think is the best for them. In mind and in heart, we all agree. However, we are unable to do it now because ours is just to dispatch, as I said earlier on. I really want to thank you, Honorable Chairperson, for allowing us to really come before you and put this presentation for us to be able to explain. For all other, the information that was asked on how the billing system is taking place in different provinces for elder people in their old age homes, I guess the department can send that information to yourself, Honorable Chairperson, so that members themselves can look upon it and see its relevance against the bill that we have been dealing with in this morning and see whether it shall resolve all the challenges. We do get into those homes in different times, and we do hear this cry that they say they do pay, but they are left with nothing to look after themselves on a day-to-day. Hence, you took upon yourself to be part of this bill, which we appreciate and congratulate that you are where we are today. We really want to thank you, Chair, and the committee, as well as Mr. Isaac, for the effort that seeks to make government to be accountable on the decisions that they take and make them to understand the background of our people and their plight. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think this is, we are coming towards the end of our meeting, a meeting that is very important because it touches on the sector of society that is the older persons. In his letter, Mr. Isaac talks about the older persons having carried this country on their shoulders. There is a lot of truth in that. And so this meeting, we are not taking it lightly as the portfolio committee. And from what one can hear, the department is not taking it lightly. It is a matter that needs to connect with all the stakeholders that can add value to bring about solutions that have been ventilated this morning. So I want to thank Mr. Isaac again and assure him that he may not have the solution, the cut and dry solution to the very important aspect or issue that he brought this morning. But as can be heard from the minister and from the DG and from everyone that has spoken here, work is underway. And there will be changes if we all go to the stakeholders that we need to go to and seek solutions to this issue. So I would like to thank the members of the portfolio committee for having come through today and listened to the presentations, both from the legal advisors on the Older Persons Amendment Bill being referred back to the NA, and appreciate the processes that were outlined by Lindiwe on what needs to happen in that regard from here, and also having been part of the discussions on Mr. Isaac's presentation and the response by the department. All your contributions are appreciated. They are received with much appreciation, and we will. I just want to ask and plead with Mr. Isaac to trust the process and keep raising issues as you get them from the 56,000 people and more that you are hearing from in your environment where you are, and bring them forward as the department. As the portfolio committee, we are not ashamed to say that we value the information that comes from the people that are our clients in terms of on whose behalf we do oversight. So bring those issues forward. We will try and find time in our program or in any other way that we can listen to you and make sure that what we hear from you is taken through the processes of the government among the arms or the spheres of government. But thank you so much also to the team that is supporting our committee here in Parliament for always being on point in providing the services that we expect from you and going over and above your call of duty to ensure that these meetings take place in a way that is supporting the work that we are doing. And of course, the acting CEO of SASSA and other leaders in the Department of Social Development portfolio. With that, if there's nothing else that is burning from anyone in this platform, I wish to declare the meeting adjourned, and we will see the honorable members in the House later on. And I wish you all have a good day and continue doing the hard and valuable work that you are doing. Thank you so much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.